some of the things that are misleading, maybe misinformation on certain products and things. So he's gonna clear all that up. But I cannot start a show until Dr. Cooley, Michelle Cooley, is come in and introduce the show. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing good. I am doing great. I love this guest. I mean, he is so personable. Like you said, he's so full of information, and there's so many things about him. He's an author. He is an entrepreneur. He's a lot of things, but he's also a great source of information. So we're really
And
excited
he's
to
a
have.
great doctor, which
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to talk about your new book, Bond. I'm excited, Michelle. You know how it
Oh
is
yeah.
sometimes. Can you go ahead on and please introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this great guest? But hold on, before you do that, wherever you watching this at, whether you're watching on E360 television, Transverse TV, or listen to it on KCBQ, AM, FM, uh, FM 96.1, AM 1170, the answer out of San Diego, YouTube, over 45 live streaming. Well, if you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform that you listen or watching on, ask this great guest any question that you might have, and I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show, purpose of the show, and this great guest?
Well, yeah. So the title of today's show is Sifting Through TikTok Health Hacks. And we're having a conversation with doctor, author, and the founder of Redcross Concierge, Dr. Ken Redcross, MD. And we're going to talk about the health benefits of Berberine. Wow, I never heard of that before, but he's going to talk to us about it and discuss who should consider taking this and how to use Berberine properly, and discuss popular TikTok health trends. So let's talk about our guest today, Dr. Ken Redcross. Dr. Ken is the author of Bond, the Four Cornerstones of a Lasting and Caring Relationship with Your Doctor, and the founder of Redcross Concierge, a personalized medical practice designed to enhance the patient-doctor relationship while providing convenient access to a full spectrum of healthcare services and holistic and wellness counseling. As one of the first full-service concierge personalized medical practices in the United States, Redcross patient portfolio includes C-level business executives, athletes, and professionals in the entertainment industry, as well as individuals from all walks and stages of life, including college students, young professionals, busy parents, and retirees. He earned his medical degree from the prestigious Columbian Presbyterian Medical Center in New York, specializing in internal medicine. During his training, he participated in fellowships in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic to fulfill his passion in serving the underserved while enhancing his medical fluency in Spanish. After completing his residency, Redcross co-founded and serves as president of MediStop, an urgent care walking clinic in California treating minor medical ailments. He's based in New York but travels across the country as his concierge practice requires. He's an advisor for Healthy Direction. So please welcome back to the show, Dr. Ken Redcross.
Thank you. No, you guys get the clap because I am happy you even asked me to come back. One of my favorite shows. So thank you. Good to see you both.
How you doing, Doc? It's been a while, man.
Oh, I know. It's been way too long, but I'm doing very well, and hopefully sending blessings out everywhere, and hope to continue those blessings today.
Wow. You know what, Doc? For people that might have missed you on the last show, I just want to catch them up and tell them who you are, where you grew up, and just what inspired you to do what you do.
Yeah. So look, everyone. So I've been very fortunate. I am what they call a concierge physician. So I'm an internal medicine trained physician, but I realized early in my career that you deserve more. Patients deserve more than what the healthcare community was providing. Right now, as you guys know, healthcare is very much kind of about volume instead of value. You feel very rushed and very hurried. And I felt that way in the beginning of my career. So it took me a while. It took me a while to kind of recognize what medicine meant to me and what it should mean to all of you. And so I decided to focus on you. And in focusing on you, it allowed me, as JC mentioned, to write a book that took me 10 years. It was directly out of my heart, really out of my spirit, to say, what are the four things that were so important that all of you should be getting from your provider? And it was trust, respect, empathy, and communication. And so that's the basis of everything. When we're on the show, when I'm on the show today, or anytime you may see me talking about something that's important, it's important for me to make that bond with you so you recognize how important you are. You're the most important part of this health journey, especially for me as a physician.
So a physician, you cover internal medicine, a lot of different things. What is the most important factor that you just love about being a physician? I understand the bonding and all that, but it's something that led you there and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do forever."
One thing that was unique, and you mentioned this before, JC. So, I grew up down in the South, down in Virginia, and my last name is pretty unique in that my last name is Redcross, and it's a Native American background name. And so, my Native American ancestry has been very important to me and to my family. And I mention that because it was so important for kind of the spirituality of who I am in medicine. It's not about religion. I mean, just the spirituality. So whenever I'm there with the patient, or whenever I'm on the phone, or actually this way as well, I always talk a lot about getting into the soul of the patient. And so that is one of those things that was just really, really special to me. And so when I mentioned that bond, the bond is really about getting into the soul of each and every one of you. So you realize, like, gosh, I just met this guy, Dr. Redcross, or I just heard him on JC's show, and I just feel he truly cares about me. And that's because I do. And so I work really hard to make sure that that resonates. And so that's an important part of what makes me me. And what it, once again, allows me to be fortunate enough to be able to talk to all of you today.
So Doc, um, as we are growing up and as we just in your case, learning the medicine side or
Hmm.
residence or whatever that might be, is there any particular doctor, past or present, that influenced you uh, through their style, through their demeanor, through their honesty to to step out and do what you do? Now we said do what you do, meaning
Right, right.
fine tune you and be Dr. Red Cross and whatever that is. So, is there one or two or any that is your role model or that you learn from and you say, "Hey, I want to be just like that doctor"?
I have a that's a great question, Jason. I have a couple. Once again, I grew up down in Virginia, and there weren't a lot of doctors necessarily that looked like me at the time. In fact, quite honestly, you talk about blessed. When I went into my undergrad, I did really well in science, and I had just as good of grades as anyone. But I never thought about becoming a doctor, JC. I was the first doctor in my family. So it was only a couple that I would see when I went to the hospital. One of my first jobs, everyone, is that I would transport patients around the hospital. So I was that guy that was there taking somebody down in a wheelchair on a stretcher, and I'm looking everywhere, JC. I'm trying to learn. I'm seeing what's going on. And I saw one or two docs that looked like me, and I always remember just asking them, how did you get here? What do you do? Just thinking about it. And so they were always inspirations. And so even when I got to that point, JC, it was then when I made my trek. When I used to help migrant Mexican farm workers in California, and it was seeing the dedication that those doctors provided, and to see what really medicine was about. So I have a few role models, actually, I think, JC, that really helped me see what medicine was about. I already had the heart for it, but to actually see it in action, and then from the first doctors to give me hope to know you can do it, made a big difference for me.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. We all have role models, and sometimes we lock on uh, someone, and you say, "Well, they doing this," and you go up there and just like you just said, you ask them, and then they can sense in you the excitement that, hey, this young resident is going to. I mean, they know in us before we even know. We
It's
feel that
true.
we know,
It's
you
true.
know.
You're right.
And I had a couple of people to pull me to the side and say, "JC, this is what I think you might want to consider."
Mm-hmm.
And, just little things like that. And sometimes I pretend like I'm not listening, but I'm grabbing that knowledge and put it in the bag.
Just like we put it right in the bag, put it right as that quiver to shoot that arrow when it's time.
Absolutely, because you have to be able to pull it out when you need it. So, hey, Dr. Redcross, the title of the show is Sifting Through TikTok Health Hacks.
Yeah.
Can you explain to our viewers and our listeners, we got about 2.5 minutes before the break, why you decided to choose that topic and why it's so important that we share this with across the world, because we got a lot of people.
Look, JC, this was such an important topic, everyone. You guys may remember some years ago, we used to always have to deal with Dr. Google, right? You go, you feel like you have a medical problem, you get on Google and you think like, oh my gosh, I have this issue, right? Well, now there's a new doc in town, and this is TikTok Doc. And TikTok Doc can be dangerous because TikTok Doc is talking about a lot of medical issues and challenges, and they're giving you these challenges and these things to do that they're telling you is going to make you better. And I'm here to tell you that's not usually the case, and you always have to make sure you come back to me or someone like me with one of these white coats on or a stethoscope, your doctor, to make sure that there is some dialogue in between. So don't be afraid to bring these TikTok hacks and challenges to your doctor. That is the reason to be here today, to make sure that we're all doing this together, because I know you're watching them out there, and I know some of you are trying them. And so I don't want you to do that anymore after talking or hearing from me today.
That's so important. TikTok Doc.
TikTok Doc.
But hey, Doc, we're going to take a station break. But we're going to come back. And whichever platform that you're watching this on, if you want to be part of this conversation,
please,
all you have to do is just go to the comments, ask this great Dr. Ken, that's what I call him, Dr. Ken, any question that you might have. And I promise you, we're going to get you an answer. Is your life. And we'll see you shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you. Yeah.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Well, welcome back to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And Dr. Ken, you guess what just happened?
Tell me.
A second. I am so happy. We just went over 23,000 subscribers doing this show.
Wow. Wow.
I mean,
Congratulations. I'm the good
wow.
luck charm. You got to have me on for your next 23,000. You better have me back.
Oh man, I didn't ever think we were going to even reach 1,000.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so
Wow.
all the people out there that are watching, wherever you're watching all over the world, thank you. Thank
Oh,
you. And you all chose a perfect time if this is your first time tuning in, because we got Dr. Ken Redcross here. And he is going to put it down like he always does. So I encourage you, if you want to be part of the conversation, whichever platform, there's over 45 live platforms watching right now, television, radio, uh, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter.
that's right.
All you have to do is just go to the comments and just ask this great doctor any question that you might have. Promise you we'll get your answer. Dr. Ken, so we was talking about TikTok.
Yeah.
We were talking about, health hacks. Yeah. In your opinion, do you believe that the social media health challenges are helping or hurting the public?
This was a big reason why I felt that this was kind of the time. I was kind of laying in the back, seeing what's going on as far as on TikTok and online now. So this is why this became so important to answer that specific question, JC. So one of the bigger things that came out recently, everyone, was this Ozempic challenge. Now, JC, so Ozempic is a medication that's used for diabetes. There's also an increased level of that particular same medication that does lead to some weight loss. And so what ended up happening is that an herbal called Berberine was actually brought into the discussion. Now, Berberine is an herbal that's really helpful to help support blood sugar and help support cholesterol, but not necessarily for weight loss. Now, there's data out there that may be out there at some point, but the point is, it started this craze. JC, when everyone was calling Berberine nature's Ozempic. Now, to answer your question directly, I'm glad in this case that this TikToker brought up the discussion. They weren't correct, but because of that era, they brought out Berberine. Now, Berberine is something that I've known about. It's something that a lot of people in the kind of the natural way of healing already knew about Berberine. It comes from the golden seal, another plant called barberry as well. And so it's something that we know can help support blood sugar, that can help support cholesterol. But once again, it's important to educate to make sure that you're not taking something that you're just hearing about on TikTok and not really getting what it's all about.
Wow. So this Berberine, can you explain in a little bit more detail? Because now you got me curious.
Oh, sure. So this is great. You're asking me to put my science hat on. This is even better. I already love this show, JC. Now I extra love it. So look, everyone, it works at this particular enzyme called the AMPK enzyme. Don't worry, I'm not going to take you back to science class for some of you who are like, what I'm going to tell you is this enzyme it's beautiful in the sense that this particular enzyme, which Berberine can motivate, I should say, let's think about it that way, helps with the insulin receptors, helps to make them more sensitive. It does the same for the cholesterol receptors, where we want to drive it out of our blood and into our cells. And so when you get the Berberine, the next question I get, JC, is, well, Dr. Redcross, I actually have heard about it, or I'm listening to your show and I'm online now and there's so many Berberines to choose from. How do I choose? Well, I always tell them one of my favorite ones is one called by Doctor's Preferred. The Doctor's Preferred line is a special one, everyone. Number one is doctor formulated. Number two is doctor vetted. And number three, it has the researched dose, which was at 1,500 milligrams of berberine. That's where you call, or that's where you get what I like to call kind of the magic of berberine at that particular dosage. So when you're looking for them and you start to see them, remember, Doctor's Preferred. And the reason why, doctor vetted and doctor formulated. And the other thing I love about the Doctor's Preferred line is that it has what's called the GMP certification, everyone. That's a seal that's on the bottle, the GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices. You should have that on any of your supplements, not just berberine. But that's another reason why I like that Doctor's Preferred line, because it has that seal. So when you're looking for supplements, it should always have that seal, because that particular seal is a third-party organization that came in to say, okay, the quality of the berberine is good, the berberine is actually in the bottle, and that there's some safety around it as well. So don't just ingest these things willy-nilly. It's important that you educate yourself around them.
Wow. That's so important for our listeners and viewers to understand. Okay, so kind of getting back to this TikTok thing a little bit. In your opinion, what kind of misinformation and false health claims are often being spread
Yeah.
on TikTok?
Well, look, so this one isn't so much false as it is just dangerous, JC. So one of them was a water chugging challenge, everyone. This water chugging challenge did exactly what the name implies. It challenged people to drink as much water as they could in a short amount of time. And that's not good for our bodies, everyone. That drives down our sodium levels, and our body does not like to have an extremely low sodium level. So that can lead to a lot of problems with the brain and other parts of the body as well. But once again, this is this TikTok challenge, right? It's out there acting as if these things are easy and simple. So that's why I say, look, I get the fun, I get the allure of social media and looking at some of these things. All I ask is that you pick up the phone and call your doc. See what your doc thinks about the challenge. See if your doc will jump on board with that and give you a little education around there and make sure that it doesn't hurt you as well. That's all. Social media doesn't have to be bad, JC, but once again, it's not there to be your medical doctor in this place.
So what is driving folks to come on TikTok and talk about and try to influence the public when they know it's not completely right, or not completely vetted, or not completely going through guys like you?
Yeah.
Might sue them.
That's a good question, JC. I think it's actually twofold. Number one, I think there are some people who honestly just don't know, who honestly say, hey, I heard about this berberine. This is nature's Ozempic. I heard I'm going to take it. I think some people just don't know. Then, unfortunately, there is a dark side of life. I hate to admit it, but you have some people who are not good players, right? And are out there to peddle some false information or some false supplements or some of these things that we know probably aren't for the better. So that's why I say it's important. And look, when I wrote Bond, JC, like I said, it took me 10 years because I wrote that it was a passion project as to those things that I thought was important. And so that book was important to once again remind everyone those 4 things: trust, respect, empathy, and communication, which you should be able to have with your doctor to be able to pick up the phone or be able to email in their little portal or what have you, so that you can make sure that you stay out of harm's way when these things kind of come up and you see them and you don't think it's a big deal. I mean, think about it, JC. You talk about the water chugging challenge. People are like, oh, that's just fun. That's probably not a big deal, a big issue. But once again, if you have that relationship with your doctor, he or she is able to tell you that's a little bit of a bigger deal than you think.
Wow. So we gonna get into Bun during the next segment. But a berberine, I'm just I kind of locked in on. I kind of like the way you say it.
Yeah.
But what are the pros and what are the cons to that? I'm sure it have to be a balance, something.
So look, so this is one of the better things, and I'm glad you brought this up, because when you talk about berberine, which is on the natural side of healing, as I always like to say, versus Ozempic, or on the Western side of healing. Look, when you deal with any medication, everyone, they're going to be broken down by one or two places, right? It's going to be the liver or the kidneys, right? And so we need to make sure that they're functioning properly. So even when you're taking Western medicine, you have to be very, very careful. When you're taking something on the natural side of things, it doesn't mean that you don't need to monitor the same things, which is the reason why you still need to talk to your doctor to make sure that some important things are happening. Number one, you want to make sure, hey, doc, is this okay? Is this going to interact with any other medications that I'm taking? Number two, are there any contraindications? In other words, doc, how was my kidney level last time? How was my liver level? Am I good there? And then the other thing you want to make sure of is when you start berberine, you go online, you look at Doctors Preferred, you see what I'm talking about. Well, doc, I want to get the berberine, but how do I make sure it's working? You got to talk to your doc about that, because I want you to check your hemoglobin A1C. That's a measure, everyone, of your blood sugar over a 3-month interval. I want them to check your cholesterol level and see pre, another couple of months post, another month post, and let's see how these things are working. So I want you to make sure that you're having a strategy when you're thinking about seeing your doctor, for instance, or when you're talking about a supplement as well. You don't do these things willy-nilly.
So would you say that a lot of doctors are either going to go holistic or modern medicine, Western medicine? They won't combine the two because they don't want to look bad.
Right.
Is it important? I'm just asking that a medical professional understands the benefits and that is willing to share with the patient that Western medicine is not always the answer. It will help out in many, many cases. Sometimes holistics and herbs and all the things. I have had doctors on the show that they were not even going to touch that. I mean, so what are your thoughts, Doc?
So look, I'm a special doc in that way, and I say that, everyone, because look, as Michelle mentioned at the top of the segment, so I'm a Western trained doc at Columbia here in New York. So I have my Western medicine hat, but then many moons ago, I've been in practice over 2 decades, everyone, and so many moons ago, I saw that people were able to heal without my prescription pad, and I said, JC, well, what are they doing? What are they taking? How are you getting better? So I started to learn about supplementation. I started to learn about homeopathy and some things that were effective. And so I started to kind of meet the patients where they were. My patients were taking these things. My patients were already talking about them, so they were getting better. They were already doing these things. So I educated myself. We talk a lot about, JC, about education because you have like 90 degrees. And so we talk a lot about education and the importance. So I went back and educated myself as well. So I met the patients where they were. I made sure I educated myself. So I'm fortunate that I can balance that. I can balance where that Western medicine we have to go with, but where we can sprinkle in some of the holistic healing as well. Don't forget, everyone, even something like aspirin, guess what? Comes from a tree, came from the bark of a tree. And so we've learned that there's different ways and these different things. So lots of times, some of these natural things we talk about end up becoming Western medicine things anyway, once they get a hold of it. So once again, I've been able to kind of mesh the two and been able, once again, JC, to meet the patients where they are. That they're the most important part. All of you out there listening and watching, for instance.
Wow. So you mentioned something about A1C a few minutes ago. And a lot of people, especially African Americans, a lot of times I'm just going to be real.
Yeah.
We don't understand the significance of diabetes or the liver or the breakdown or substance that it's going to be broken down in the 2 organs that you mentioned.
Yeah.
What would you tell folks out there that already have diabetes or have issues, kidneys, that are pushing away from it, and A1C, case in point, I tell you, I got diagnosed about 3 years ago myself with A1C of 7.6. And to me at the time, it sounded good. I mean, I thought it was good until I started talking and dealing with internal medicine guy quite often.
Yeah.
And the kidney specialist, and he broke down to anything that's what he told me, anything over 6.5.
5. There you go. 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. You are in trouble because it's only going to go up even more if you don't take care of it. And I jumped on board, and
good.
And they put me, and I started taking this aged garlic and all the things and Bomerax. And so tell for the people out there that don't understand the significance of making sure your A1C is under 6.5, and you really want it into the 5, 6, 5, 7.
Yeah.
Can you educate them? We got 2 minutes before the break.
All right, JC did a great job with that. So look, everyone. So to JC's point, an A1C. Remember, that's a special measurement that lets me know how much blood sugar or how much sugar is on your red blood cells over a 3-month interval. So the key is you want that to be below 6.5. If you're over 6.5, that means you are a diabetic. If you are over 5.7, that means you're borderline. So it's that 5.7 to 6.5, which is the borderline window. And when I mentioned berberine, that's a space for people there too, as far as something to start saying, what can I do ahead of time? So when you're thinking about A1C, remember that's associated with certain complications. As JC mentioned, when that number gets higher, you get liver issues, you get eye issues, you get all these other issues. So that A1C is key, that you're talking to your doctor and saying, okay, doc, I heard this other doc and JC talking about this A1C. How can I drive this thing down? How can I bring that down below that 6.5? And you know now that it can affect your heart and your kidneys. So that number needs to be driven down, and you want to have that discussion immediately.
Wow. Doc, we're going to take a station break. I got to pay the bills.
Do it.
This is so interesting. I tell you, I see you out there. I see all of you out there. Why be scared? If you want to be part of the conversation, this is your opportunity. Come on, ask this great doctor.
Please.
Any question that you might have, I promise you, we'll get you on our post it because it's your life. And we'll see you shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, Dr. Ken, you see why I love having this young man on my show, because just like I told you, he's gonna bring it. He's gonna bring it,
I
and
am.
he's gonna tell you the
Promise.
truth. Oh, he's gonna tell you the truth, regardless of whether you listen or not. One of the things I want to say at the beginning of the year, I mentioned to our viewers and our listeners that I was going to write 4 books this year, and all of them are going to be bestsellers. Um, Brain Z coffee book, it's just coming out. It's already a bestseller worldwide already, and that's just like that's God. That's God, and that's you out there. And so I just want to thank everybody, all my listeners, all my viewers, great guests like Dr. Ken here, for making this happen, because we can do anything that we set our mind to. And that's the most important thing.
Right.
And when it comes to our health, we can do it. We can have the willpower, and we have the understanding that we know that sometimes we have to step back and not just listen to everything that we see on television, radio, TikTok. Sometimes you have to go see the man in the white suit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have
Well
to do
said.
that. And I know it's a lot of times we don't want to do that, especially guys,
Yeah.
but we have to do that. So that's why we got Dr. Ken Redcross here today. So Dr. Ken, I can't even hold back no more. I want to talk about this book that took you 10 years to write.
Yeah.
10 years. I know you had read the last 10 years on the show, and we talked a little bit about that. But can you tell our viewers and our listeners what prompted you to write this book, and why did it take so long for you to complete it?
Yeah, that was the question I was waiting for there, JC, because everyone says, "Oh my gosh, took you 10 years." You know why, everyone? It's because it took me 10 years because of the reason why I wrote it. In other words, I ended up writing this because, and I mentioned earlier, I just started to see that, I had this pie in the sky feeling about medicine and what it really was. And when I got there, I realized that it wasn't focusing on the people that were most important. You, the viewers, the listeners, the patient, in other words. It wasn't focusing enough. It was more about volume than value, as I like to say. And so it took me 10 years because it took me that long to kind of realize, like, why don't I feel fulfilled? I remember the best part of my days was actually there with the patient in those 4 walls, as I always like to say. But then there was a lot of other burdensome things that weren't doctor-like or didn't require my brain and didn't allow me to bond with the patients. But I didn't know what that was and why that was so frustrating. So as I started to put pen to paper, and it's interesting, everybody. So if you can't tell, I'm kind of a talker. I'm more of a talker than a writer typically. And so I had to put pen to paper. I had to kind of almost journal and say, why was this a good day? And why wasn't the best day? What was it? So it took me better part of a decade because I was busy. I was there in these large medical groups. I was seeing 30 a day. I was learning, like, why am I not fulfilled? And so it took me picking it up and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down. So after a while, I started to realize that book, my book, Bond, it was a journaling process for me. And then after that, I started to realize why it fulfilled me and why it was so important that I completed it. So I kind of put the pedal to the metal the last year or so. And it was shortly after that I ended up kind of going out on my own. So it was almost like my swan song in a sense, JC, as far as writing that and taking it, really pulling it out of my soul and putting it out of my heart. And so it was like the time for me to grow up and grow up and grow out to all of these people who I think I was put here on this earth to impact.
So tell us a little bit about Bond, some of the things that you wanted to convey to our viewers and our listeners, or the reader, most importantly, the reader. So what are some of the things that they're going to get out of your book?
So look, one of the things that I've mentioned a couple of times with us here, JC, is that I realized what are the 4 cornerstones. It's called Bond, the 4 cornerstones of a lasting and caring relationship with your doctor. And I realized what those cornerstones were, right? The trust, the respect, the empathy, and the communication. And each one of those are so important, because if either one of those falls, all of a sudden the relationship with the doctor isn't so great, isn't so fulfilling. And so I talk a lot about those particular cornerstones and how you get them and what to do when you feel like you don't have them. Also talk a lot about some vignettes. I say kind of behind the curtain. I'm old enough to remember, JC, when I started seeing patients, there used to be an actual curtain in the room. But back then there was a curtain, everyone, believe me. And so behind that curtain was a beautiful thing, because it was almost like people would be able to really open up and be themselves. I always joke around and say you have to be honest with two people in your life. You need to be happy with your doctor and your priest. Those are the two that you have to be honest with. So when you pull that curtain back, I hope that you feel that way also when you go out. And so that's why Bond was written in the first place, to feel like people can feel like they can let their hair down and be one with me during their reading.
So you got so many different technologies out there. You got telemedicine. You got internet medicine, and you got all of these things. And so, but you also got a lot of different personalities in people. So what would you say to the person that do not want to? And it's a lot of them out there that do not want to go to the traditional side and visit the doctor.
Yeah.
And a lot of things you have written in your book where they can get confidence that it's okay because you're a doctor that cares. And hopefully there's a whole lot of doctors out there, especially on Michelle's side. Pretty much everybody in her family is a MD.
I heard. I heard.
Yeah. So, but the confidence in your doctor have to be earned.
Yeah.
How do you all go about earning that confidence? Because many, and let me give you an example. Many doctors, and I know this, they're on this time schedule where I only got 12 minutes or 14 minutes with this patient. And they come in and they talk fast and they do all this and then write up a prescription. And as a patient, you sense that this guy or this girl, they really don't care. They are just pushing their product out there, their medicine, so they can get their little 3 to 5 cents off each one of the prescriptions, which a lot of people don't know that. So what would you tell patients out there that sometimes a doctor had to kind of push back and say, I'm locked in on my patients. I'm locked in on their well-being. And I'm locked in on them trusting me, because once they trust you, you can spend 3 minutes with them. You don't
That's
have
the
to spend
key.
20 or 30.
Yeah. That's
What are
part
your
of
thoughts
this.
on that?
Thank you, JC. That's part of the secret sauce, right? When you can really get those 4 cornerstones together, you're right. The patient shouldn't even feel like it's been the 15 minutes. And that was the challenge, right? I was shaking my head when you were talking about 13, 20, 11 minutes. It's not 11 minutes, JC. We're going to keep it real today, right? So the average, everyone, is 7.5 minutes.
I did not want to say that.
Stage. We're going to keep it real. We're going to continue the trend. And so very, very important. And JC, you may have saw me, everyone. I was reaching over here a little bit off camera. And the reason why was to answer this next question. So JC, you mentioned like, hey, there's a lot of different ways to see the doctor. And I know you're seeing the doctor virtually. And then you see the doctor, you go to the office. I, as you guys can tell, love to actually be there amongst the patient energy wise. But I was reaching over, JC, because I'll show you guys this. This is my business card, everyone. And one of the things you see here with this business card is a doctor bag. And I share that with you guys out there watching and listening because I make house calls. And that's one of the important things that I think was lost in medicine. There are some docs that still do that, like myself, that are in a sense throwbacks. But once again, this is getting back to what matters most, which is you watching and listening, or pretty much saying the patient. And so to be able to go into a home and be able to spend time with them and sit there on their sofa, pet their animal, smell that food cooking, all of those things it gets back to making sure that that bond is there. Now, I'm not naive to believe that every doc can necessarily do that, JC, but my point is it's an effort. It's my effort to let patients know that you matter to me. And so that's why I think it's important to you just do your best. As a doctor, I know it's challenging. Look, I was there, but once again, I charted my own path. And it was the best decision I ever made.
I believe that um, that has been so lost in the process because of technology, and a lot of times, I mean, patients, I believe, are different, and a lot of times they have to see the doctor. I know, in many cases, well, we can do telemedicine. We can. I said, no.
Yeah.
I want to see the doctor. I want to look at the doctor eye to eye. I want to feel a lot of things, because a lot of medicine I don't want to take, and I want to make sure that whatever the diagnosis is that we have looked at and have checked the box, whether there's herbs or whether there's this, whether there's that, or modern medicine. I mean, I just want to know the truth. And I think it's so important that the medical profession get back to that. And it's so important that we encourage the patients to reach out and know that they can trust their doctor, and that whatever the situation or circumstances might be, that they're going to get an honest answer.
Absolutely. And that trust piece is the big piece. And it's hard, right? It's hard to go in there. You're going to meet someone, you're going to go in there, your clothes are going to be off, you're going to have a gown, and you're supposed to trust this person immediately, right? That's why I say it's good to sometimes get a referral from someone. But then once again, when you go in that room, you have to feel that energy. And energy is a very important thing. You can kind of tell if someone focused on you, or someone giving you eye contact, or they're in their computer. Are they actually letting you finish your sentences? I mean, in other words, do you feel heard? So look, it's a very, very private thing, is what I'm trying to say, to go see your doctor. So why wouldn't you want it to be the best? Why wouldn't you want it to be the best interaction? Why wouldn't you go to that doctor's visit with some, let's not say demands, but let's say some expectations, when you go there to drop down your copay? You've earned that. And you have decided that this is where you want to spend your time today with the doctor. So you need to feel a little empowered. That's an important thing that I like all my patients, or any of you out there, we're all going to be patients. That's me included. You want to make sure that when you go, that you feel like I am empowered to be here and that I'm appreciated.
Okay, we got about 2 minutes before the break, but you led yourself into this, right? So a lot of us non-medical doctors, we look at the medical doctors and say, how did you go about choosing your physician? I mean, you're a doctor, you're MD, you this and that. Hey, how you go about choosing your physician to treat you?
Yeah.
I'm talking about this not just geared towards you, but just
I know what you mean in general. and look, and JC, it's really true. Those 4 things: the trust, the respect, the empathy, the communication, is the same thing that I demand when I go and see my doctor. And I'm sure other doctors do as well. Let me tell you, my doc knows that when I'm coming, we're going to talk. And so I was fortunate enough to find someone who understands that, which is what I mean to you. Some of you out there aren't necessarily like me. Some of you are maybe, are really the busy type as well. Don't really need that kind of bond, but you just want to come in and go. That's okay, because you know what you are, who you are, and what you need from your doctor. So that doesn't mean that doctor isn't a good doctor, but once again, you want that bond and that fit. So JC, was able to find a doc who gives me those things that I need as an only child talking up a storm, that gives me what I need, that keeps me happy. It's interesting too. I will have to say she's a little bit of a ringer in this case, because I was blessed in that I worked under her as a resident when I was training in New York at Columbia. So I already knew she was super smart, super wonderful. So I was able to say, do you mind taking care of some of your old residents? And so I was fortunate and blessed. She said, oh my gosh, okay, I will. And it works out for me.
Wow. We're going to take another station break. And I mean, this is so interesting. We needed about 2-3 hours for this. That means you're going to be invited back on the show again real soon if you have the time. But I tell you, wherever you're watching, it's not too late. We got about 8.5 minutes left of the show. And you can ask any question that you might have. And I promise you we'll get to that. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break. Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, just like me and Michelle, we love this man right here. This doctor right here is legit. He's the real deal, and he's gonna tell you. He's gonna tell you the truth, and it's up to us to understand that your doc have to be the real deal as well. That's gonna tell you the truth. And sometimes, I mean, I guess money or something like that get in the way, but honesty, integrity, and ethics is the most important thing.
Mhm.
And you want a doctor that cares about you and your well-being, and that's willing to share and sometimes put you back where you might think that this is the right thing to do, and etc. But I love Doctor Redcross and Ken, my friend, my great friend. Wow. So getting back to Bun, and we only got about 4.5 minutes left in the show.
Mhm.
Why don't you tell our viewers again the four aspects of that? Because I think we went through two of them, a segment or a last segment.
Yeah. So those cornerstones, I call them, everyone: the trust, respect, the empathy, and communication. And like I said, I talk about them and really sit there and dissect them. Right, they're four words, but really think about what they mean to you. Trust we talked about. Respect just makes too much sense, right? But when you think about empathy, you mentioned this a little bit, JC. You know, you want to make sure that you feel like your doctor truly cares about you and your situation. Some of that goes outside of medicine, JC. Whether I go in that room and I say, you told me your daughter got married last month. How'd the wedding go? How is everything at home? See, a lot of those things are what I mean, that they're empathetic, right? It's bigger than just I'm coming in. Yes, we're gonna be able to deal with your diabetes or deal with your blood pressure and deal with those issues. But what about kind of the spiritual side of you? Once again, not religious, everyone. What I mean is just your person, your soul. How is that really doing? We talk so much about mental health challenges and some of those things. That's what I mean. Because all those impact our health, whether we know it or not. And that S word is a big part. The S word, JC, and everyone, is stress. I don't ever say the word, so I'm only saying it for you guys today. But it's that S word that really comes in and can wreak havoc on us. And so that's part of that empathy, and making sure you realize you have a whole person there in front of you as well, not just a diabetic or a hypertensive.
Wow, Doc. So your book, Bond, if people want to reach out for your services, I think you do telemedicine. I don't know how you do that, but if they're not in the state of New York and
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
they wanted to seek you as their physician, how could you tell them how they can reach out? First of all, buy your book, get in touch with you, and reach out for your services. We got less than a minute and a half.
All right, so JC, it's interesting. My book was number one in Amazon in the psychology department, which was amazing because I didn't think about that. And so it is available on Amazon. Also, Bond by Dr. Ken Redcross, the website as well. And I have patients all around, everyone. I have a patient I spoke to last week who's in Spain. So there's a lot of things that can happen as far as counseling and helping give you some direction and so forth. So I can be wherever you guys need me to be, but you have those social media handles, and by all means, they're at Dr. Ken Redcross. And so please feel free to reach out. I'm really serious. This isn't lip service. Reach out. I'd love to meet new people and once again give them some support and some direction.
Dr. Ken, you got a standing invitation to the show, and I just want to thank you so much for taking time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's your wife, and Michelle. Dr. Cooley is going to be reaching out to you again for part two.
All right.
I don't know if your schedule permit, but we're going to do that. So I want to thank Dr. Ken Redcross, for all that he do. My friend, I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Always dream big, think big, and be big. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your life. We'll see you then.